Amina had always felt the world was against her. From a young age, life had been harsh and unforgiving. She grew up in a small, crowded home where her parents struggled to make ends meet. Her father worked long hours in a factory, his hands always rough and calloused, while her mother cleaned homes in the neighborhood just to earn a few extra coins. Even as a child, Amina learned that nothing came easily, and she learned to rely mostly on herself. School was difficult. The other children would sometimes make fun of her torn shoes or worn-out clothes. Amina, however, carried a quiet strength inside her, refusing to let the cruelty of others destroy her spirit. As she grew older, life did not get any easier. Her parents' health began to fail, and the little money they had was never enough. Amina took on small jobs wherever she could, washing dishes, running errands, delivering groceries. She would wake up before dawn and return home late at night, exhausted and hungry, but she never complained. She told herself that one day things would get better, though deep down, she knew life might always be a struggle. One evening, as Amina walked home from a long day of work, the sky was a soft orange, the sun slipping behind distant buildings. She felt tired, her feet sore and her back aching. Usually, the streets would be alive with people returning from work or children playing, but tonight was different. The area she walked through was quiet and empty. She passed abandoned shops and cracked sidewalks, the smell of dust and decay filling the air. She kept her eyes down, hoping to avoid any trouble, but fate had other plans. Suddenly, a group of people appeared ahead. They were rough-looking, and their eyes were cold. Amina's heart raced. She tried to walk past them quickly, but they blocked her path. Her instinct was to run, but her body was too tired, her legs weak from hours of walking and carrying heavy loads. The group cornered her, shouting and laughing. Amina tried to explain that she had nothing of value, that she was just a tired girl on her way home. But her words fell on deaf ears. The group was cruel, and they did not care about her pleas. Fear and panic took over. Amina's mind raced as she tried to find a way out. She remembered the small alley just a few steps behind her. Maybe if she ran fast enough, she could escape. Summoning all her strength, she dashed toward it. But one of them grabbed her arm. She stumbled, hitting the ground hard. Pain shot through her side, and her vision blurred. The group laughed and disappeared into the distance, leaving her alone and injured. Amina lay there, trembling, trying to catch her breath. Her side ached, her body felt weak, and tears streamed down her face. She felt completely abandoned for hours. She tried to crawl toward safety. The night was cold, and shadows seemed to stretch over every corner. She called out for help, hoping someone would hear her, but the streets remained silent. Each cry for help seemed to vanish into the darkness. Amina's mind wandered to her parents, to the little home she had worked so hard to keep warm and alive. She wondered if she would ever see it again. Thoughts of giving up crept in. She felt hopeless, as if the world had truly left her behind. Despite her pain, there was a small voice inside her that refused to quit. Amina thought of the days when she had helped her younger neighbors, when she had shared the little food she had with a hungry child, when she had offered a smile to someone who seemed sad. She remembered those moments and realized that even when life was cruel, she had never been completely without hope. That thought gave her the tiniest spark of strength. She tried to sit up, but her body shook, her arms weak. She needed help, but she didn't know where to find it. As she lay there, she noticed the small sounds of the night, a distant dog barking, the wind rustling through the broken trees, the faint hum of a streetlight. It reminded her that the world was still moving, even if she felt stuck. Amina thought about what she could do to survive the night. She needed warmth, shelter, and safety. Slowly, painfully, she dragged herself to a nearby doorway of an abandoned building. The walls were cold and damp, but it was better than lying in the open street. She curled up as best as she could, shivering and trying to make herself comfortable. Time seemed endless. The night stretched on, each minute heavier than the last. Amina's eyes grew heavy, but sleep did not come easily. She thought about the life she had lost, the dreams she had once held, and the kindness she had hoped to receive from the world. But all those thoughts were mixed with fear. Would anyone find her? Would she survive until morning? She whispered, quietly to herself, promising that if she survived, she would try to see the good in people again, even if it seemed impossible. Hours passed slowly, and Amina's hope wavered. Her body ached from the fall, and the cold night made it hard to move. She tried to remember a time when she had been happy, a moment of laughter or love, anything to keep her spirit alive. She thought about the small joys of her childhood, the taste of fresh bread her mother baked, the sound of children playing in the streets, the feeling of sunlight on her face. Those memories gave her comfort and reminded her that life had not always been cruel. As dawn began to break, a faint light touched the street. Amina could barely lift her head to see the world waking up. She felt a mixture of relief and fear. Relief that the night was ending, fear that she might still be alone. Her body was weak, her spirit tired, but a tiny hope remained. She whispered again to herself, promising silently that she would not give up, no matter how hard life had been. She had survived this long, and somehow she knew that her story was not over yet. The first light of morning touched the streets, casting long shadows and slowly chasing away the darkness. Amina was still in the cold doorway, her body stiff and sore from the night. She tried to move, but each movement caused sharp pain in her side. Her spirit, however, was stirring with a tiny glimmer of hope. She had survived the night, and that alone felt like a small victory. Yet she knew she could not stay there forever. She needed help, and she needed it soon. As she struggled to stand, she noticed a figure approaching from the distance. At first, it was just a shadow, a blur among the broken walls and quiet streets. But as it drew closer, Amina could see a man moving carefully, his eyes scanning the area. He seemed different from the others she had encountered. There was no harshness in his expression, no rush to get past her. Instead, he moved with patience, as if he knew that someone needed help, and he was willing to take the time to provide it. Amina's first reaction was fear. She had learned not to trust strangers. The memory of the group that had left her on the ground was fresh, and her heart pounded in caution. She tried to make herself small, hoping he would pass by without noticing her. But the man slowed his steps, kneeling down a short distance away. His voice was calm and gentle. "Hey, are you okay? Can you move?" Amina wanted to shake her head, to tell him to leave her alone, but the pain in her side made it hard to respond. The man did not push her or force her to speak. Instead, he reached into his bag and pulled out a small bottle of water. "Here," he said softly. "Drink this. You need it." Hesitantly, Amina accepted it. Her hands shook as she lifted the bottle to her lips, and the cool water felt like a small miracle going down her throat. The man introduced himself as Karim. He explained that he worked with a local community group that helped people in need, those who were homeless, injured, or forgotten by the world. He did not ask questions about why she was alone or what had happened. Instead, he focused on the immediate need, getting her to safety. Amina could hardly believe it. No one had ever offered help without suspicion or judgment. Karim's calm and patient presence made her feel something she had not felt in a long time. Trust. Karim helped her to her feet, supporting her weight carefully. Step by step, they moved toward a small van parked a few meters away. The van was simple, not luxurious, but it was clean and warm inside. Karim laid a soft blanket across the seats and helped Amina lie down. The warmth of the vehicle wrapped around her, and she finally allowed herself to close her eyes for a moment, feeling a sense of safety she had almost forgotten. During the ride, Karim spoke quietly, sharing stories of the people he had helped before. He told her about a young boy who had been lost on the streets, a mother who had no food for her children, and elderly people who had no one to care for them. Each story was told not to impress or boast, but to remind Amina that kindness existed, that there were people willing to help even when life seemed unfair. Amina listened quietly, absorbing his words. Slowly, a tiny spark of hope began to grow inside her. When they arrived at the community center, Amina was surprised. The place was small but bright, filled with warmth and the smell of food being prepared. Volunteers moved about, speaking kindly to each other and to those they were helping. Karim guided her to a room where she could rest and receive first aid. A nurse carefully cleaned her wounds, applied bandages, and offered her something to eat. For the first time in days, Amina felt the comfort of being cared for, of being seen not as a burden, but as a human being who mattered. As she rested, Amina reflected on the night she had endured. The pain, fear, and loneliness were still fresh, but the contrast of Karim's kindness was striking. She had spent so long expecting the worst from people, expecting betrayal or neglect, that this act of care felt almost unreal. Yet she could not deny the reality of it. She felt the warmth of the blanket, the gentle tone of Karim's voice, and the presence of people who treated her with dignity. Slowly, her heart began to open, letting in a fragile sense of trust she thought she had lost forever. Over the next few days, Karim stayed in touch with her, checking on her progress and offering help in practical ways. He arranged for Amina to have meals, clean clothes, and a quiet space to recover. He did not rush her or demand anything from her, which made the experience even more profound. Amina began to realize that kindness did not always come with conditions or hidden motives. Some people, like Karim, genuinely wanted to make life better for others. Amina also noticed small things around her that she had never paid attention to before. The laughter of children playing nearby, the sound of birds in the morning, the gentle sunlight streaming through the windows. All of these little details felt richer and more precious. Life, she realized, was not only about struggle and pain. It could also hold moments of beauty and comfort. She began to look forward to each day, curious about what small joys it might bring. One afternoon, Karim sat beside her and spoke gently. "You've been through a lot," he said, "but you're strong. Even when life has been cruel, you're still here, and that shows courage. I want you to know that you deserve help, and you deserve to feel safe." Amina listened, feeling tears welling up in her eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. No one had acknowledged her strength or told her she deserved kindness. For the first time, she felt seen and valued as a person, not just as someone struggling. Amina knew her journey was just beginning. She still had challenges ahead, still had fears to face, and still needed to heal both physically and emotionally. But the encounter with Karim had changed something fundamental inside her. She realized that even in the darkest moments, hope could arrive in unexpected ways. One person's compassion had the power to transform her perspective and offer a path forward. By the end of the week, Amina could walk without assistance and even smile at others around her. She had regained a sense of dignity and began to participate in small activities at the community center, helping with organizing supplies or preparing simple meals. Each small task reinforced her confidence and reminded her that she could take steps to rebuild her life. She felt a sense of belonging she had never known, and it made her determined to rise above the hardships she had endured. Through Karim's unwavering support and the small acts of care from others, Amina began to understand a powerful truth. Even when life seems merciless, human kindness can be a lifeline. She still carried the memory of that night and the fear it brought, but now it was tempered with gratitude and hope. For the first time in years, she dared to imagine a future where she could heal, grow, and even help others in turn. Days turned into weeks, and Amina slowly began to adjust to a life that felt safer and more welcoming than she had ever known. Her body was healing from the injuries she had suffered, but the healing of her spirit was a more delicate process. Every morning, she would wake up in the small room at the community center, sunlight streaming softly through the windows, and feel a sense of peace she had not experienced in years. She began to notice the small details around her, the smell of fresh bread from the nearby bakery, the gentle hum of the city beginning its day, the laughter of children playing in the courtyard, and for the first time, these simple pleasures did not feel distant or unattainable. Amina spent her days at the center learning new skills and helping with small tasks. She folded clothes, organized supplies, and assisted in preparing simple meals for others who came for help. Each task, no matter how small, gave her a sense of purpose. She began to see that even when the world had been cruel, she could still contribute to something positive. The routine, simple as it was, started to bring structure and stability into her life, which she had not known since childhood. During this time, Karim remained a constant presence, checking in with her and offering encouragement without pressing her or making her feel indebted. He understood that trust could not be rushed, and Amina slowly began to open up. She shared fragments of her story, her childhood struggles, the long days of work, and the events that led to her being left alone and injured. Karim listened without judgment, nodding gently and occasionally offering comforting words. For the first time, Amina realized that talking about her experiences did not have to bring shame or pain. It could bring relief and understanding. One afternoon, while sitting in the small garden behind the community center, Amina reflected on her past. She thought about the nights she had spent hungry and scared, the people who had turned away when she needed help, and the constant feeling of being invisible. She remembered the night she had been left on the street, the sharp pain in her side, and the hopelessness that had nearly consumed her. But she also thought about Karim, the warmth of his kindness, and the moment when she had realized she was not alone. That memory became a turning point. She began to understand that even when life seemed unfair, there were moments of light and hope if one was willing to see them. Amina also observed the other people at the center. Some had come from situations similar to hers, others from even more challenging circumstances. Each person had a story of struggle, but they were all finding ways to heal and rebuild. Seeing their courage and resilience inspired Amina. She realized that pain was not something to be hidden or ignored, but something that could be transformed into strength. She began to see her own hardships not just as suffering, but as lessons that had shaped her into someone capable of empathy and understanding. The staff and volunteers at the center treated her with respect and dignity, and this made a profound difference in her healing process. Simple gestures, offering a warm meal, listening patiently, sharing a kind word, helped Amina rebuild her trust in humanity. She had learned to expect cruelty and neglect, but these small acts of care reminded her that the world was not entirely cruel. Slowly, she started to believe in the goodness of people again, and this belief became the foundation of her emotional recovery. Amina also began to set small personal goals. She wanted to learn to cook simple meals, to read more, and to help other people who were struggling. Each goal she achieved, no matter how minor, brought a sense of accomplishment and pride. For the first time in years, she felt she could shape her own life, rather than being at the mercy of circumstances beyond her control. The simple act of planning for the future, of imagining a life filled with hope rather than fear, gave her a sense of empowerment she had never known before. Karim encouraged her gently, reminding her that progress was a journey, not a race. "Healing takes time," he said one day as they walked through the garden. "It is okay to take things slowly. What matters is that you are moving forward step by step." Amina listened, absorbing the truth in his words. She realized that she did not have to rush to fix everything at once. Recovery, she learned, was about small, consistent steps, and each step mattered. During this period, Amina also began to reflect on her personal values and what kind of life she wanted to lead. She remembered the moments when she had helped others, even when she had very little herself. Those memories reminded her that her heart had always been generous, even in the face of hardship. She realized that she wanted to continue acting with kindness and compassion, not only for her own healing, but to make the world a better place for others. This realization became a guiding principle in her journey toward redemption. Some days were harder than others. Amina would wake up with memories of the night she had been left alone, or she would feel the lingering fear of being abandoned again. These moments were painful, but they no longer defined her. She began to recognize that acknowledging the pain was different from being consumed by it. With Karim's support and the environment of care around her, she learned to face her fears with courage and patience. Each challenge she overcame reinforced her resilience and deepened her understanding of her own strength. By the end of her first month at the center, Amina had made noticeable progress. Her physical wounds were healing, her confidence was growing, and her spirit was slowly lifting. She had begun to participate in group activities, sharing her experiences and listening to the stories of others. This sharing created bonds of trust and friendship, reminding her that human connection could be a source of strength. She felt a renewed sense of purpose and a desire to contribute to the lives of others, just as Karim had contributed to hers. Amina's reflections during this time marked a turning point in her journey. She understood that her past, while painful, did not have to define her future. She realized that she could use her experiences to inspire kindness, compassion, and courage in others. Her life, once filled with fear and loneliness, was beginning to transform into one of hope and meaning. She knew that the road ahead would not always be easy, but she felt ready to face it with a renewed sense of determination. Through these weeks of healing and reflection, Amina discovered an important truth. Redemption begins not with grand gestures, but with small steps of understanding, trust, and kindness. Each day she grew stronger, not only in body, but in heart. And while the memory of the night she was left for dead would always remain with her, it no longer held the power to control her. Instead, it became a reminder of how far she had come and the strength she had found within herself. Amina's life had begun to change in ways she had never imagined possible. After weeks of healing and reflection, she felt stronger and more capable than she had in years. The fear and hopelessness that had once defined her life were gradually being replaced with a sense of purpose. She wanted not only to rebuild her own life, but also to help others who were struggling, just as Karim had helped her. This decision marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where she actively sought redemption through meaningful actions. She started small. Amina began by assisting at the community center, helping to organize food supplies, prepare meals, and offer support to newcomers. She was patient and kind with everyone, sharing a smile or a gentle word to those who appeared lost or frightened. Even though her contributions were simple, they had a profound impact on the people around her. She discovered that helping others gave her a sense of fulfillment that no achievement or material possession could provide. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, reinforced her belief that she could make a difference. One day, while distributing food, Amina noticed a young girl sitting alone on the steps, shivering in the cold. The girl's clothes were worn, and her eyes were filled with fear and uncertainty. Amina remembered herself in that state not long ago, the despair, the loneliness, the feeling that no one cared. Kneeling beside the girl, She offered a warm meal and soft words of comfort. "You're safe here," she said gently. "You don't have to be afraid." The girl looked up, hesitant at first, then slowly accepted Amina's hand. In that moment, Amina realized the true power of empathy and compassion. She was no longer just a survivor. She had become a source of hope for someone else. Encouraged by these experiences, Amina began to take on more responsibilities. She helped newcomers navigate the center, offered guidance to those in need, and sometimes even stayed late to ensure that everyone had what they required. With each passing day, her confidence grew. She learned that leadership did not always mean giving orders or controlling others. Sometimes it meant listening, understanding, and providing support when it was needed most. Amina had become a quiet leader, someone people trusted because she genuinely cared for them. Yet the path was not without challenges. Amina still carried memories of her past, the fear, the pain, the nights spent alone and helpless. Occasionally, she would feel waves of anxiety or doubt, questioning whether she could truly leave her past behind. Some days were harder than others, and moments of self-doubt threatened to overshadow her progress. But Amina had learned resilience. She reminded herself that every small act of kindness she performed was a step toward healing, not just for others but for herself as well. She began to understand that redemption was not a single event. It was a continuous journey shaped by choices, actions, and intentions. Amina also began to reflect on how she could make a larger impact beyond the community center. She realized that many people in her city were struggling silently, facing hardships that often went unnoticed. She wanted to reach them, to extend the same care and compassion she had received from Karim. With the guidance of the center's staff, she helped organize outreach programs, visiting neighborhoods to offer food, clothing, and encouragement to those in need. She spoke to children, listened to elders, and offered support to families facing difficult circumstances. Each interaction reinforced her belief in the importance of kindness and service. Through these actions, Amina noticed a transformation within herself. The fear and anger that had once weighed heavily on her heart began to fade, replaced by a sense of purpose and fulfillment. She realized that her past struggles had given her a unique understanding of pain and empathy. Because she had experienced hardship firsthand, she could connect with others in ways that others could not. Her journey from despair to hope had equipped her with the ability to offer genuine compassion, and she embraced this gift fully. One particularly cold winter morning, Amina encountered a man who had been living on the streets for months. His clothes were thin, and his hands were raw from the cold. She offered him a warm meal and a blanket, speaking to him with patience and kindness. The man's eyes filled with tears as he accepted her help. "No one has ever done this for me before," he whispered. Amina smiled softly, realizing that her efforts, though simple, could change lives in profound ways. That moment reinforced her determination to continue helping others, no matter the challenges or obstacles she faced. Amina's growing involvement in the community began to inspire others. People who had been hesitant or fearful of offering help started volunteering, influenced by her dedication and kindness. She became a symbol of hope, a living reminder that one person's compassion could create ripples of positive change. Her story began to spread quietly, not through announcements or recognition, but through the actions she inspired in others. Those who had received her help often went on to assist someone else, and the cycle of kindness continued to grow. Despite the progress she had made, Amina remained humble. She understood that her journey was ongoing and that there would always be challenges ahead. She continued to face moments of doubt, fear, and grief, but she no longer allowed them to define her. Instead, she used them as reminders of her resilience and as motivation to help others. Her life had been marked by hardship, but through her actions, she was transforming that hardship into something meaningful and lasting. As the months passed, Amina's life became increasingly intertwined with the lives of those she helped. She celebrated small victories alongside them: the first hot meal they had in days, the successful completion of a job interview, or the simple act of smiling again after a long period of sorrow. Each shared success strengthened her sense of connection and reinforced the idea that redemption was not only about personal healing, but also about uplifting others. Through her consistent efforts, Amina realized a profound truth. True redemption is not achieved through words or intentions alone, but through action. Every person she helped, every act of kindness she performed, became a testament to her growth and transformation. The girl she had once been, left for dead and full of despair, had become someone capable of love, compassion, and leadership. Amina had taken her pain and transformed it into a source of hope, proving that even the darkest experiences could give rise to light. By the end of this chapter in her life, Amina had not only found her own redemption, but had also become a beacon for others. She understood that the journey was ongoing, that life would continue to present challenges, and that her strength would continue to be tested. Yet she faced the future with courage, knowing that kindness, empathy, and perseverance could overcome even the deepest scars. The human act of kindness that had saved her life had grown into a lifelong commitment to help others. And through this commitment, Amina had discovered her purpose, her strength, and her true self. Amina's life had transformed in ways she had never thought possible. The girl who had once been left alone and abandoned now moved through the world with confidence, hope, and a deep sense of purpose. Her journey from despair to redemption had been long and filled with challenges, but each step had strengthened her spirit. She had learned that kindness, courage, and perseverance could overcome even the deepest pain, and she was determined to carry those lessons forward in every aspect of her life. Over time, Amina's role in the community expanded. She became a trusted mentor for newcomers at the center, guiding them through their first steps toward safety and recovery. She listened patiently to their stories, offering advice and support without judgment. She taught them practical skills, helped them find work, and encouraged them to believe in themselves again. Her presence brought comfort to those who had known only fear and uncertainty, and she took great pride in seeing their confidence grow. One of the most meaningful moments for Amina was when she reunited with her younger neighbors, whom she had helped in the past. They had faced many challenges of their own, and seeing them again reminded her of how interconnected people's lives could be. She shared her story with them, not to draw attention to herself, but to show them that life could change for the better, even after the darkest moments. Her words inspired hope, and she saw in their eyes the same spark of determination that had begun to grow inside her when Karim had helped her. Amina also reconnected with her family. Her parents had struggled with their own hardships, and they had feared losing her forever that night she was left for dead. When they saw her strong, confident, and thriving, tears filled their eyes. They could not fully understand everything she had endured, but they recognized her growth and resilience. Their reunion was filled with warmth, forgiveness, and love. Amina realized that redemption was not only about healing herself, but also about rebuilding relationships and fostering understanding with those she cared about. Her relationship with Karim remained an important part of her life. He had been the first person to offer her help without judgment, and she never forgot the compassion he had shown. They stayed in touch regularly, often working together on community projects. Amina valued his guidance and friendship, but she also realized that her journey was her own. Karim had provided the spark, but it was her courage, resilience, and determination that had carried her forward. She had learned that while others could guide her, true transformation came from within. Amina's story began to reach a wider audience. Word of her courage and dedication spread quietly through the community. People admired her not for fame or recognition, but for the way she lived her life, with empathy, humility, and strength. She was invited to speak at events, sharing her experiences and encouraging others to see the power of kindness and the potential for change. She emphasized that redemption was not about erasing the past, but using it to create a better future, for oneself and for others. Her story touched many hearts, inspiring people to act with compassion in their own lives. As she looked back on her journey, Amina realized how far she had come. She remembered the night she had been left alone, injured and scared. She remembered the despair, the fear, and the feeling of being invisible in a harsh world. But she also remembered the moment Karim had found her, the warmth of his kindness, and the way it had given her hope. That single act had changed her life forever, and she understood that her own acts of kindness could create the same ripple effect for others. Amina's daily life was now filled with purpose and connection. She woke up with gratitude, eager to contribute to her community. She worked tirelessly to ensure that no one felt the isolation and fear she had once endured. Her life became a living example of how compassion, dedication, and resilience could transform not only an individual but an entire community. People who had once felt hopeless now saw a path forward through her guidance, and their successes became her triumphs as well. Despite all the progress, Amina remained humble. She knew that life could still bring challenges, and she accepted that setbacks were part of the journey, but she no longer feared them. She had learned to face difficulties with courage, to seek support when needed, and to offer help to others whenever possible. Her past struggles had shaped her, but they no longer defined her. Instead, they had given her strength, empathy, and the wisdom to make a lasting impact. Amina also took time to nurture her own dreams. She pursued education, learning new skills that allowed her to contribute even more effectively to her community. She explored creative outlets, from writing her story to mentoring young people, sharing the lessons she had learned about resilience, hope, and human kindness. These pursuits brought her joy and fulfillment, reminding her that personal growth and helping others could go hand in hand. As the years passed, Amina became a symbol of hope for countless people. She demonstrated that even when life seemed merciless, one act of kindness could change a life forever. Her story illustrated that true redemption was not about wealth, fame, or recognition. It was about compassion, courage, and the willingness to rise above pain and make a positive difference in the world. She showed that anyone, regardless of their past, could transform their life and inspire others to do the same. In quiet moments, Amina often reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. She thought about the nights of fear, the struggles she had endured, and the times she had doubted herself. She also remembered the warmth and compassion that had saved her, and she felt gratitude that ran deep in her heart. That gratitude fueled her ongoing efforts, reminding her that the gift of kindness was meant to be shared. By the time she looked out over the community she had helped nurture, Amina understood something profound. Her life had been forever changed, not just by the struggles she had endured, but by the humanity she had experienced and now shared. The girl who had once been left for dead had found redemption, not in material gains or accolades, but in the love, compassion, and hope she offered and received. Her life became a testament to the power of kindness, the resilience of the human spirit, and the lasting impact that one person's courage and empathy could have on the world. Amina's journey was complete in a way that mattered most. She had survived, healed, grown, and transformed her pain into purpose. She had created a life filled with connection, hope, and meaning, And in doing so, she had inspired countless others to believe that even in the darkest moments, life could be redeemed through compassion, courage, and the simple, powerful act of caring for another human being.